अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम नहमदु व नुसल्ली अला रसूलिल करीम. We are in the process of discussing Muharram. First, we had discussed Muharram in terms of space. Then we discussed also. First, we discussed Muharram in terms of time, and then we discussed Muharram in terms of space. And now the discussion where we left last time was on hygiene. So from this point, hygiene will lead us to the hurmat or hurmat of relations. That is Muharram relations. Why? Why I'm raising this question and going to discuss this, that is it the concept of Muharram or concept of Hurmat uh, at this stage, particularly pertaining to relations, is it only related, it is only confined to the information which we find in our discussions, in our tafasir, or in our religious literature? We hardly find any scientific literature while discussing hurmat of relations, and it hardly connects it with hygiene. So, from this discussion, ultimately, not today, this will ultimately lead to the discussion on the discussion of hurmat of relations or Muharram relations. Why, in terms of science, and the points which I will raise are not the only points which are important in science or in medicine, but are only some of the points which I'll bring in for your kind consideration, and then it's up to you to consider them. During the discussion, I will also seek your permission to bring before you a discussion on some of the points pertaining to this topic, and the heading was spousal hygiene, health and hygiene, which I had uh, presented, which I had sent to Medina University in their international seminar on this subject, spousal health and hygiene. They had approved this, they sent me the certificate, they approved it, and they invited me to come to Medina to make a presentation. But at that time, I could not go there to the University of Medina because my wife was in hospital at that time fighting against cancer. But anyway, they published that article in their journals. So I will present some of the points from that articles also because they are connected with hygiene. And then that leads also ultimately to the discussion the discussion on the hurmat of relations. So these are interconnected topics. Quran does not separate sciences in watertight compartments. They are interconnected. Immediately, we find discussion from sociology leading to political science leading to physical sciences, and so on. And then it is also important because Quran asks us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us not to fall on the ayat blindly. Be skeptical, ask questions. Ibn Khaldun, who is called father of sociology by the West, in the Western literature, he is called father of sociology. Ibn Khaldun asks us, advises us to be skeptical about history particularly. Ask questions. But we have banned questions in our madaris. We don't allow questions, and we don't allow skepticism in terms, in this sense of philosophy. Philosophy is based on skepticism, not on zan, not on speculation. It is based on questioning, questioning positively to learn the hakikat, to learn the haq. So anyway, last time we had left the discussion here. Islam placed hygiene essentially obligatory even before salah. This was one of the points where we left the discussion. And then hygiene deals with biological and social behaviors. Wherever Quran is talking about biological and social behaviors, the hygiene comes in. For example, the clean period of women. And there are prescriptions in Quran. Don't go, don't indulge in intimacy at that time. I'm trying to talk in very limited terms. So hygiene deals with biological and social behaviors, and from here we get the connection about the hormat and relations also. That I will raise some points before you. And then the process of evolution means that these behavioral tendencies developed genetically. Genes which could keep maintain hygiene, animals which could keep and maintain hygiene, they survived. All others failed. They were wiped out. Genes that were unable to practice hygiene and therefore not able to defend themselves were outlived by those who were able to defend themselves. Hygienic behavior is a natural function of human psyche. It is in the nafs. وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا. Nafs is based, its survival is based, its development is based, its ultimate stage of being mutmain is based on tahar, being mutahar. That is the basic condition for being intimate with Quran. Only those are intimate with Quran who keep themselves mutahar in their ideas and in their body, in their clothes, in their environment. But it was much, much later that man came to understand that hygiene prevents germs. Although here, today I'll point out to some important things from, I will not quote hadith, ahadith or Quranic ayat, but some of the points that we miss while reading our religious literature. We have mistranslated. And even today, we are not ready to understand that. And if you point it out, then people fight with you. I will mention that. If we read our religious literature, in the light of the new information, scientific information, we will come to understand that the Prophet, peace be upon him, at that time defined these things. Our ulama at that time, like Ibn Sina and others, they defined at that time, but we lost the correlationship between the sciences and the social sciences, physical sciences and social sciences. That's why we are even today averse to correcting these translations in the light of the new information which has become available. And then today's discussion slowly will lead us to these points which I've raised from the last week's important points. Mesopotamian texts discuss brushing teeth. It means that the concept of hygiene was present among the human beings in the civilized societies in thousands of years back. But then we lost, as I already said, that there have been periods of civility and then deeper decay. Babylonians created world's first soap in 2000 BC, 2000 BC before Christ. People knew how to purify water. 300 years on, it took 300 years after that 200 BC. It took 300 years, in spite of this information, it took 300 years to make public baths. The baths were made, first bath was made in Greece. In 1865, the liquid soap was invented, but it was hardly brought into practice. Germ theory of disease. Now, from here, I'll invite your attention to the literature of ahadith, where we find that even our Prophet or even the commentaries on ahadith at that time, commentaries on ahadith, they refer to these matters, but they have translated in the terms which were known at the time, like devils, shaitan. If you don't clean your bed, the shaitan will enter your bed. If you don't clean your clothes, the devils will be attached to your clothes. If you don't wash your hands, the devils will be in your hands. Actually, in today's language, in the scientific language, if you try to understand that, what they are referring to. So we have to look at these translations and religious literature every time, in every period, with the progress of the language, with the progress of the scientific information. How to translate them? No translation is the last translation, no translation is the final translation. It will keep on changing to the extent of better understanding in the light of the new information, which is scientifically at least based on observation and then based on experimentation, is based on the scientific method. It is based on the empirical evidence. And it will keep on improving. But the basic facts in Quran will remain the same. They cannot be changed. Where we cannot translate, let it remain without translation. The time will come when we will understand the Arabic of Quran properly. For example, at that time it was called miasma theory, which ultimately Ibn Sina adopted and he improved it. Miasma, that is the pollution theory, and it was considered that the diseases are translated or transmitted by pollution. Something in the pollution, in the environment. The diseases are caused by this. And towards the end of 19th century. But till today, we are not, we don't understand, we don't know in our explanations, in our religious literature, whether Ibn Sina pointed out to that. It hailed that diseases such as so many diseases, they are caused by pollution, bad air. And you will find, if you correlate, that there are devil in the air, there's a devil in the air, there's devil, shaitan in the air. If you don't clean your hands, the shaitan will sit with you to eat your food. It will enter your food. But we need to improve these translations. Such infections, according to the theory, were not passed between individuals but affected those within the locale that gave rise to such vapor in the environment. And we say there's shaitan in the environment, there's devil in the environment. Germ theory of disease was developed in 1860s. 1860s. Although we had this information, but we didn't work on it and we didn't improve it from hand to hand. French chemists, for example, and there were others also, European scientists, they developed it. Germs, microorganisms are so small that we can only see them through microscope. Although in the time of Ibn Sina, there was no microscope, but we find references to such things that we can't see. You can't see devil, you can't see shaitan, you can't see jinn. We use the terms jinn at the time that the jinns will enter these things because you can't see them. This is what the scientists say, you can't see them. But now they are using the appropriate word, that these are germs which you can see only under microscope. These are physical, they have physical life, they have physical existence. Even jinn have physical existence. We cannot see with our eyes because they are created by radiation. And radiation is energy, and energy is physical. But we still stick to the terms like jinn, shaitan, devil, and other things. Germ refers not just to bacteria, but also to the type of microorganisms such as fungi and other things. But now the science has developed further, and they are now using specific names for specific classes of these germs. There is a classification. It was still another 30 to 40 years after the discovery in 1860 before surgeons realized that they should operate with masks and wear coverings. Even doctors at that time, they refused to use this information and they refused to use they did not use any masks or any gloves. But when these were suggested, when the time came, these were suggested by scientists, even the surgeons refused to use them. The doctors refused to use them. This is jihad. But slowly, as the information became available, Now the surgeons themselves use and they recommend. The doctors themselves use and they recommend also. But we are still at that point. Germ theory of disease is currently accepted as a scientific theory. It states that microorganisms, which are like jinns because we can't see them, jinns means those creations which you can't see. They are jinn, invisible. Their growth and reproduction within their host causes disease. They enter the body, they, like pathogens, like parasites, they grow on that host, on that prey, they become predators. When we look at the ahadith, there are explanations even given there, but we don't translate them into the scientific terms. Diseases caused by pathogens are called infectious diseases. They spread, and we find clues in the Islamic literature. There are clues, explanations, but they need updating. This information needs updating. Pathogens may be principal cause of disease and environmental and hereditary factors and can influence severity of disease. With development of bacteriology, germ theory led to identification of organisms, their classification, and their causes with each class separately. Now, I will not go into these stages of development of this theory, but the clues are available in Quran and in Hadith, but they only need proper correlation. From 400 BC, 500 BC till the Middle Ages. Now, this I may be allowed to read little bit. Hybrid form of miasma, which I mentioned, and in between I mentioned the contagion theory, that how the disease spreads by contact. Ibn Sina combined these theories, miasma and contagion. But the terms are not used, these terms are not used at that time. And he proposed in the canon of medicine, he said people can transmit diseases to others by breath and can also spread through water and dirt. What is this? He is referring to miasma and contagion. He is combining these two theories. But since we don't know miasma, we don't read contagion, what is contagion, and we don't read Ibn Sina, we simply say that Quran is blank on this and Hadith is blank on this because of our own jahalat. And these are references. Early modern period, after the germ theory was discovered, these are some of the things which theories mention. And in Quran, these are available. This statement particularly of these Italian scientists at that time, after the development, after the germ theory was developed. We can't see these devils, these jinn organisms. We can see them only microscope. Microscope was not available. They proposed at that time, living creatures arise from non-living matter. What is يخرج الميت من الحي ويخرج الميت من يخرج الحي من الميت and mayyit from hayy. What is dead virus? What are the artificial chains of genes which are created and then they are used in the vaccine, in virology, how the vaccines are created and how these are used, small chunks, small pieces of artificial genes, of viruses, dead viruses, and then correlate this, try to understand within the words of the Quran and go to the roots of the words of the Quran, and you find the correlation there in the roots. يخرج الحي من الميت ويخرج الميت من الحي. Microorganisms were observed in 1670, and they were called little animals. But now scientists updated their information, and they don't call it little animals anymore. They call them microscopic microcosm, microscopic creatures, microscopic organisms. They have corrected, they have updated their terminology, but we are still translating those things in ununderstandable things. Terminology. Now there is development slowly and gradually coming to the present day. I'm not reading every step, how it progressed. In 19th and 20th centuries, they developed a theory that all infectious diseases were due to parasitic infection with animalcules. At that time, this word was not used as we use devils, jinns, shaitans, bad creatures. They use animalcules, and now they use microscopic organisms. This is how the science develops. Science will keep on progressing. Don't translate in those scientific terms, but translate at least, interpret and give explanations at least in the latest terminology, that this is the actual word in the Quran, and this is the actual word in Hadith, and this is the interpretation, and this is the latest word by the latest scientific terminology. Correlation. Right from the beginning, I'm talking of correlation. This is I'm just exposing certain things before you, just to correlate. I'm not translating them in exact terms. Now, hand washing, wuzu starts with hand washing. Hand washing is a simple method for preventing spread of pathogens. If I use this word in explanation or in interpretation, what is wrong? Why we wash our hands? But we don't find these correlated explanations in our religious literature. That is, it includes bacterium, virus, microorganisms which cause diseases. Advocating hand washing often cost doctors their career. In 1840, doctors who advocated to hand washes, they were dismissed, removed from service. Bertrand Russell, who was an atheist, who has written about hundreds of books, he was removed from service for talking about certain things which pertain to morality. And today, those most immoral things have become moral. He pointed out those things at that time. In his book, Marriage and Morals, he points out that the society is moving towards the status where woman is demanding equality, she is demanding independence of all sorts, equality of all sorts, and he points out at that time, more than 100 years back, that when she gets complete independence, complete equality, and he uses the words, when she has the key of the car, she has key of the apartment, she has she is financially independent, and there's no question can be raised on her time. When you come home at night or in the day, where were you? Then at that time, forget about her chastity. But I'm still talking at that time. But we don't correlate. We reject because he's a theist. We will not quote from him. He's pointing out at that time in that society, and this is happening today. He said this is developing, and this has developed, and this has led to LGBTQ. They were often mocked. The doctors which prescribed washing of hands, and the hospitals became houses of death. Many of ill and dying were kept on wards with no ventilation. Now look at the architecture of our times. I'm not talking of Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, or Mesopotamia. I'm talking of the civilized world. When we say that we were civilized, we talk of Mughal era, we talk of Khwarizm era, we talk of Seljuk era, Ayyubid era, empires. I'm talking of those empires. Ottoman Empire. And look at the architecture of that time, even Mughal era. Small streets, houses being made without ventilation. What does that mean? We forgot Quran, we forgot Hadith, we did not understand, we did not read, they developed certain architecture. Mughal architecture, for example, included acoustics, mathematical calculations on sound waves. Yes, they did that. But look at the total civilization. Go to the villages, go to the towns, how the streets, how the commercial areas, how the houses were developed. No ventilation, completely dark rooms, small streets, no hygiene, no drainage at that time. During those civilizations, I'm talking where on the civilization on which we boast. But at the higher level, we can at the same time boast on certain things, so they did. But scientifically, they failed totally. No. Mortality rate for patients admitted to hospitals was 3 to 5 times greater than that for individuals cared for at home. Hospitals became death houses. Doctors did not routinely wash their hands until mid-1800s. It means that we Muslims in our own civilization, we are talking of 1800s, 1900s, 20th century, and we are talking of these centuries when Ottoman Empire was there, Mughal Empire was there, our empires were there at that time. Death houses. What does this mean? We had forgotten, we had misunderstood, we had not understood at all the philosophy of wuzu, the philosophy of ghusl. And we did not. Somebody is snoring. I'm trying to. Can you see my slide?
We can see your slide, Justice Shahzado. You need to mute Abdul
Yes,
Ismail.
I'm trying to mute that person, but I can't find it here.
If you go under his name, there is 3 dots. Just to mute him.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going there. I have spotted, but I'm not taking the name.
That's fine. That's fine. It's already muted. Okay.
No, not here. Okay. Okay. Muted. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So now I'm going to back to the slide. So you can see the slide now, huh? You told me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. But I can't see my slide. I lost it. I don't know whether I will find it now. No, it's not. I lost it.
If you have it, if you can see the text, you can speak. We can see the slides.
Yes, I'm trying to find it here, but I lost my slide. I hope I will be able to share. Yes. Oh, no, it's not the one. It's not the one. Where it is. Is it okay? Doctors did not routinely wash their hands.
Yes,
Do you see
we
this?
can see it. Yes. Yes,
Sorry for this interruption. Doctors did not routinely wash their hands until mid-1800s. When we read this, we criticize others. In 1800, was there any Islam? In 1800s, was there any Muslim civilization? Was there any Muslim empire? Were there any doctors? Were there any hospitals? We don't look at ourselves. We don't introspect. We don't do zikr. We don't do fikr. We don't reason. I'm talking of 1800s. You kindly verify this. They would proceed straight from dissecting a corpse to delivering a baby. Happening, this is entire world, happening everywhere, including Muslim world. Hand hygiene as the key strategy to prevent the spread of pathogens was a hard task through history, including Muslim history. Because we forgot Quran, we forgot Hadith, and we did not correlate with the science. And we did not allow the science to come in to properly update our explanations. Now, recommended strategy for keeping pathogens at bay is to wash hands. Wuzu starting with hands. Ghusl starting with hands. Many nations have introduced measures preventing the spread of virus, and a manual on hand washing is provided by the ministries of health. Ministries of health. What were we doing? What are we doing? Human skin is home to wide variety of bacteria, viruses. We find so many correlated statements in Quran and Hadith where we can correlate them. And these are references. On average, a person's skin is home to around 1,000 different kinds of bacteria. Why Quran is emphasizing that you must come to God clean? Wash yourself, wash your clothes. If you don't have water available, use dust. Just, touch with the dust with your hands, so that you should not forget it. You keep the habit that I have to go before God clean. There are trillions of microbes which you have to fight. Now, these are data available on this, on antiseptics and hygiene. There is a lot of literature available which we can correlate with these statements in Quran and Hadith. I'm just inviting your attention, and I leave to your study, your research. Until the hands were barred in live stream, Romans would not allow anybody to handle sacred things with tainted hands. As I say, there were ups and downs in the history. In civilizations, these things were available, but then they forgot. Things are available in Quran and Hadith, but we forgot. Similarly, Romans forgot. Others also forgot. That's why they started doing this thing. I will not read every point. I'm just bringing. There are different aspects of these points which I have noted, but I'm not bothering you with everything. Poor hygiene was not restricted to lower classes. Extremely wealthy were regarded as nasty and hideous. Today, in the higher classes, where Quran and Hadith is not known, in those classes, I'm talking of those classes, they don't wash themselves, they don't clean themselves with water after the toilet. They have restrooms, decorated, beautiful, but they don't wash. Higher classes, I'm talking of those higher classes, they don't understand the Quranic prescriptions because they have become modern. Europe acquired Eastern cultural habit. Quranic habits were only mostly related to the East. As they relate Islam and they try to propagate that it is an Eastern religion. They say Europe is not Islamic. They treat it separately. Europe acquired Eastern cultural habit. This is their language. Modified it, and in this process, they distorted it and destroyed it. During the colonial period, the architecture, the code of life, you will find that there's a difference. For example, in Mughal era, if you go to the mosque, if you go to any building, you go to the public building, you go to any house, you will find a place for purification. You will find a small mug or something in which you can use water. And during the colonial period, you will find that in public places, in public buildings, you will find these things missing. And when they were introduced with a name, Muslim shower. This is because this has come with the Muslims, and it is introduced as a Muslim shower. Unless you demand yourself or unless you put yourself, there is no Muslim shower at those places. There's no water at those places. In public places, I'm talking of the public places and the architecture. I'm not talking of ordinary things. I'm talking of the architecture which developed at that time. I leave it to your imagination. How we lost it. But Alhamdulillah, this shower has become Muslim. Now this is called Muslim shower. This has come from the East and it has come from Islam. And this is the reference. I'm not saying from my side. They started giving references, but at the same time, they tried to attach it to the religion which they hated. Germ theory came to be accepted in early 20th century. It should have been accepted right from Ibn Sina. Even before that, right from 7th century, from 6th century, if we had not translated it as devils or shaitan. But if we had translated it as the jinn, then after that, if we had updated, as Ibn Sina updated, after that we had updated further, then it would have become known in the West along with the new terminology that we failed. Unlike ceremonial hand washing, which dates back thousands of years, hand washing for disinfection is a recent concept. Now look at what they are pleading, as if this is not my statement. These are all quotations from the Western literature. I have quoted. As if this concept was not present in Quran. They say that this concept of washing hands was not present in human history because we have not projected Quran on these lines. We have projected Quran only on other things in our own way, in our own thinking, mostly mistranslated. At different times, different names were used. For example, syphilis, it is STD. It has a history, and it was taken from a shepherd's name. His name was syphilis, and it became syphilis. But we find there was literature on this in the Muslim world. Preventive hand washing before taking food, wash your hands. But there's a history. Florence Nightingale, what she did? Humanitarian endeavor was able to persuade the world of the importance of increasing hygiene and sanitation. But now that is attached with Nightingale, not with Quran, not with Hadith, not with Ibn Sina, not with others. What did Nightingale did? What did she do? Nightingale urged nurses to wash their hands. Quran says, wash your hands and faces regularly, and faces regularly. In wuzu, wash your faces regularly, 5 times a day. Throughout the day, she said. But this practice is not related to the Muslims, connected to the Muslims. The Muslims are clean. No, Muslims are not considered clean. Nightingale, they say, if you read the Western literature, she did this. She originated this, demonstrating a long-standing appreciation for the efficacy of hand hygiene. It is not related to Quran. I leave the discussion here. And next time, Allah willing, after this, we'll inshallah come to the concept of Muharram in the human relations. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzat amma yasifun wa salamun alal mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت فإنك يا ربنا تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك. اللهم ادخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الجهل والوهم إلى نور العلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك وبطاعتك عن معصيتك وبفضلك عمن سواك. اللهم بفضلك ورحمتك أعلي كلمة الحق والدين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وعز المسلمين يا أكرم الأكرمين. Oh Allah, spread your mercy upon us. Shower us with your blessings. Increase our knowledge, grant us forgiveness, and reward us with the company of the prophets in the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, purify our hearts, strengthen our faith, increase our knowledge, and make us benefit from what you have taught us. Oh Allah, forgive our parents and all our friends and relatives who have passed away. Oh Allah, make their graves garden from heaven and grant them the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, we have many of our friends and relatives who are sick. Oh Allah, grant to all of them full and speedy recovery. Oh Allah, guide our children, protect them, and make them righteous. Oh Allah, grant us the power and the ability that we may be grateful for the favors you have bestowed upon us and our parent, and that we may do righteous deeds that are pleasing to you. Oh Allah, we seek from you all of the good, whether we know it or we don't. And we seek your refuge from all evil, whether we know it or we don't. Oh Allah, we seek refuge in you from incapacity, from laziness, from fear, from greed, from poverty, and from the torment of the grave. Oh Allah, we have many of our brethren who are living under oppression and injustice. Oh Allah, heal their trauma, protect their helpless, and grant them lasting peace and prosperities. Oh Allah, we ask with every name you have elected for yourself, that none of us leave this gathering, but his pains have been relieved, his worries have been removed, his debts have been paid, his weaknesses have been concealed, his sins have been forgiven, and his needs have been fulfilled. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.